Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into a topic that, well, it's often unseen, isn't it? But it's like the invisible architecture behind our entire understanding of life on Earth.
That's a great way to put it.
We're talking about taxonomy,
Yeah.
you know, the science of naming, describing, classifying organisms. Without it, frankly, we couldn't even meaningfully speak about biodiversity, let alone figure out how to protect it.
Exactly. It's foundational.
So our mission today is to journey through time a bit. We want to explore how technology, starting from simple handwritten notes all the way up to complex algorithms, has just utterly revolutionized this science.
And it's fascinating because these shifts weren't just small steps. They were truly transformative leaps. We'll trace, well, maybe 5 major eras, from Linnaeus' influence right up to the algorithms defining things now.
Yeah, and as we go, we'll hit some, I think, pretty compelling questions like, what do we actually gain when a machine can ID a plant faster than a trained botanist?
Good question.
And what might we risk losing? Our traditional skills changing. And this is the big one, maybe. Can AI really be more than just a tool? Could it be like a collaborator in discovery?
A partner, almost.
Right. So this deep dive is really for anyone curious about how we make sense of nature and how our tools keep reshaping that understanding. Let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's set the scene. Go back, say, early 20th century. Try to imagine a world with no digital tools, not even easy photography, taxonomy back then. It sounds more like a craft, doesn't it? Slow, painstaking.
Oh, absolutely a crack. It demanded immense rigor, huge personal commitment.
Right.
The heartbeat of it all was the physical specimen. Researchers collected, preserved, stored plants, animals, in museums, botanical gardens, universities.
These collections we still rely on.
Exactly. They were absolutely critical. You had to compare an unknown thing to a known one or check if something was genuinely new. Identification meant looking really closely at morphological traits.
Morphology. So the physical form.
Yeah.
Size, shape.
Precisely. Size, color, shape, even internal anatomy sometimes. All under magnification, all recorded by hand.
And with photos being so limited.
Detailed handwritten notes were everything, and these beautiful ink illustrations, they captured tiny details that, might fade or get distorted after preservation.
And people still use those drawings today, right?
They do. Many are remarkably accurate. Identification also leaned heavily on printed dichotomous keys.
Ah, yes, the Ps, like a choose-your-own-adventure for species.
Kind of, yeah. A series of paired statements, couplets, like petals present or petals absent. You choose, it directs you to the next step, and you keep narrowing it down.
Needs a trained eye, I bet. And knowing the jargon.
Absolutely. Rigorous observation and very specific vocabulary. And communication, well.
Slow.
Incredibly slow. Isolated, too. You'd write letters, maybe across continents, or publish formal papers, which took ages.
Months.
Literally.
Yeah.
Months, even years for a discovery to really get out there. And field work. That meant travel. Often extensive, sometimes dangerous travel, just to collect or consult an expert somewhere else.
Wow. You hear stories, right? Treks through jungles for months.
For maybe one new species, it's incredible dedication. Or maybe a touch of madness.
But despite all that, the simple tools, the foundations they laid,
Yeah.
just profound, lasting impact.
Undeniable.
But with everything being so manual, how did they ensure reliability? Keeping track of it all across different trips, different people over decades without databases.
That's a brilliant question.
Yeah.
Because their system, it revolved around their notebooks. They weren't just diaries. They were sophisticated, interconnected documents. There were like 3 main types.
Okay.
First, the observation log or field journal. That's for real-time stuff. Date, time, location, weather, habitat, what the organism was doing, its behavior, interactions,
Yep.
vital ecological context. Then, the specimen log or catalog register. Once you collected something, you recorded its unique number, species name, maybe preliminary, who collected it, where, when, how it was preserved. That linked the physical thing to the record, permanently.
Traceability.
Exactly. And finally, the sketchbook or illustration journal. Before easy cameras, this was key. Detailed drawings, measurements, notes right on the drawing, capturing subtle things, colors, textures that preservation might destroy.
So you could link the field observation to the collected specimen to the detailed drawing.
Yes. Cross-referencing them created this incredibly thorough, verifiable record. These notebooks were, they were like extensions of the taxonomist's mind and memory, real groundwork for everything that followed, a tangible trail of evidence.
Amazing system, actually. Okay, so let's jump forward. Late 20th century, things start changing, right? The print revolution kicks in.
Big time.
I definitely remember this era. That feeling of a physical field guide, the worn pages.
Oh, absolutely. This was really the golden age of field guides. The 70s, 80s, early 90s, just an explosion of these high-quality, standardized, beautifully illustrated guides.
Peterson guides, Collins guides.
Exactly, those iconic ones. And they weren't just for academics anymore. They made identification accessible to, well, everyone. Amateurs, students. It sparked huge public interest in nature, got people looking closer.
So it democratized things a bit.
Very much so. And those printed dichotomous keys, they were still vital in textbooks and serious guides guiding you through those choices. But alongside them,
Photography.
yes, the rise of nature photography. Equipment got more portable, more affordable. Photos started appearing alongside or sometimes instead of illustrations.
Giving that true-to-life view.
Right, which was great for, say, bird watchers, butterfly fans, plant spotters. Really helpful for more casual identification. A real game changer for many people.
But even with better guides and photos, challenges remained. Getting hold of research from other countries, for instance.
Still tough, very tough. You relied on university libraries, maybe interlibrary loans, which could take weeks, months even, for just one paper.
Right. And language barriers, I imagine.
Huge barriers. Plus, imagine field work, carrying stacks of heavy books or loads of photocopies into remote areas. The sheer logistics were daunting.
Definitely limits what you can do on the spot.
And communication, while more structured societies, journals, museum networks, was still slow. Peer review took time. Discoveries might take years to circulate properly. If a mistake got published, it could hang around for a long, long time. Thorough, yes, but slow.
Okay, so print helped a lot, but still bottlenecks.
No.
The digital leap. Personal computers, the internet, mobile devices.
The turning point.
Suddenly you could send an image across the globe in seconds. Was this the moment taxonomy went truly global?
I think you could definitely say that. It was a seismic shift. It absolutely laid the groundwork for a truly global, connected taxonomy.
What changed first?
Well, one of the early things was digital field guides, ebooks, downloadable things, searchable embedded photos, maybe audio clips of bird calls.
Oh, right, sound.
Yeah, sound maps.
Yeah.
It just made identification faster, more intuitive.
And databases. You mentioned collections earlier.
Huge impact. Online databases started popping up. Platforms like IDIS, FishBase, and especially GBIF, the Global Biodiversity Information Facility, they started pulling together info from institutions everywhere.
So centralized knowledge.
Exactly. Validated checklists, synonyms where species live, all from one online portal, constantly updated. Goodbye, interlibrary loan delays.
That must have accelerated research incredibly.
It did. And then came the online communities. Early 2000s, you get forums, early blogs, like Bird Forum, bugguide.net, people helping each other with IDs in real time. Crowdsourced learning, really.
Building communities online around this shared interest.
Yes. And then portable devices started getting smarter. PDAs, handhelds, early smartphones. Suddenly, you could take these digital tools into the field, check things on the spot.
Makes a huge difference.
But it wasn't just about looking at things or finding info faster. The digital leap also brought in molecular techniques. DNA barcoding really took off mid-2000s.
DNA barcoding. Using genetics for ID.
Right. A short standard bit of DNA. It allowed for rapid, reliable species identification, helped sort out really complex groups, species that look alike.
Cryptic species.
Exactly, and identifying things from just like a tuft of hair or scat, stuff where you couldn't possibly tell just by looking.
Wow, okay, so this digital age, it feels like it really broke down barriers, geography, language, access.
It really started to. A new era of collaboration, more inclusion. It set the stage perfectly for what came next.
Which was?
The AI age, what many see as the most radical transformation so far. Species ID moving from labs and experts to, well, a global participatory thing, thanks to AI and the smartphone in your pocket.
It does feel radical. You snap a photo and boom, you get an ID almost instantly sometimes. How does the AI actually do that? What's the core tech?
The core is sophisticated computer vision, pattern recognition. These AI systems get trained on massive data sets, millions and millions of images that humans have already identified and annotated.
So it learns by example.
Exactly. It learns to see and recognize features, like the wing patterns on a butterfly, the vein patterns on a leaf, fur texture. It associates those visual cues with a species name.
Does location matter?
Oh yes, often uses geographic data too. Knowing where you are helps narrow down the likely candidates enormously.
And the key innovations here, what made it take off?
Well, things like neural networks, learning from huge data sets, like the tens of millions of photos on iNaturalist.
Right, the citizen science platforms.
Yeah, and mobile apps like Seek or PL at NTMet giving you real-time suggestions just by pointing your camera, often with a confidence score, which is helpful.
Confidence scores, it tells you how sure it is.
Kind of, yeah. And crucially, these AI tools are often integrated with those citizen science networks. The AI gives a first guess, maybe.
And then humans check it.
Exactly. Experts or other knowledgeable users confirm or correct it. It's this blend of automation and human review that's really powerful. And all this data flows back into central databases, updating distribution maps in near real time, feeding into conservation research.
Amazing loop. And it's not just pictures, right? You mentioned DNA earlier. This era also saw the rise of eDNA, environmental DNA.
Yes. eDNA.
Fascinating stuff.
Remind us, what is it exactly?
It's basically genetic material that organisms shed into their environment. Skin cells, hair, feces, urine, pollen. Like biological breadcrumbs they leave behind.
So you don't need the actual animal.
Nope. You sample the environment, water, soil, even air sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly useful for specific things, detecting rare or really elusive species you might never actually see.
Finding the needle in the haystack.
Pretty much. Or identifying whole communities of organisms at once, like all the plankton in a water sample or all the microbes in soil. And it contributes massive amounts of data, especially in water rivers, lakes, oceans, where just looking isn't always feasible. Imagine knowing all the fish in a river from just a water sample. Incredible.
It's transforming ecological monitoring.
So the benefits of AI and these new tools seem huge. Opening taxonomy up to everyone, school children, hikers, farmers, anyone with a phone contributing data.
An absolute explosion of data, unimaginable before.
And the speed. Identification in seconds, not hours or days. Plus, apps often have these gamified features that get people engaged, keep them involved with nature.
Definitely enhances public engagement.
But there have to be downsides, right?
Yeah.
Challenges. What are some of the less obvious ones?
That's a critical question. Speed is great, but one big issue is the training data itself. AI is only as good as what it learns from.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Well, or maybe bias in, bias out.
Yeah.
If an app is trained mainly on European plants, it might be terrible at identifying South American plants. We saw that early on.
Right, so it can actually reinforce knowledge gaps if we're not careful.
Exactly. It can inadvertently deepen those disparities.
Yeah.
There's also the risk of over-reliance. Do people lose the foundational skills using a key, looking closely at structure if they just reach for the app?
Deskilling, potentially.
Potentially, yeah. And those regional data gaps can lead to persistent errors, unless you have that human expert oversight catching mistakes.
Okay, so it really sounds like AI isn't replacing taxonomists. It's more like enhancing their capacity and widening the net for data collection.
That sums it up perfectly. Experts can focus on the really tricky stuff, the new species discoveries, the complex revisions, while AI and citizen scientists handle a lot of the initial sorting and identification of more common things.
Which brings us right to that big question about the future. AI replacing humans. It sounds like the answer is a clear no. The future is digital, yes, but also collaborative.
Absolutely collaborative. That's the key. Human expertise still matters immensely, maybe more than ever.
Why specifically? What can humans do that AI, even really smart AI, can't?
Well, taxonomy is so much more than just recognizing what something looks like. It involves deep analysis, internal structures, how things reproduce, their role in the ecosystem, their behavior.
Things AI doesn't see in a photo.
Right. Or think about those cryptic species we mentioned, look identical but genetically distinct. Naming things nomenclature is another area. It involves digging through historical literature, finding centuries-old type specimens, applying strict international rules.
Rules AI isn't really set up to interpret.
Not on its own, no. It requires judgment, historical context. And then there are ethical considerations, conservation priorities, policy implications, cultural significance. AI doesn't have judgment or ethics. That's uniquely human.
So AI suggests, maybe, but humans provide depth, critical thinking, the final decision.
That's the ideal partnership.
Okay, so if humans are still central, what does the future look like? What are the emerging trends combining this computing power with human insight?
We're seeing several cool things developing. One is really integrating genomic data into the AI models, training them not just on images, but on DNA sequences too, plus location data.
Making them much smarter.
Much more accurate, especially for those tricky look-alike species, something visual AI alone struggles with.
What else?
Personalized digital field guides. Imagine an app that dynamically creates a guide just for you, based on your exact location, what you've seen before, what's likely to be there. Cuts down the noise.
Hyper-relevant. I
Huh.
like that.
AI is also getting better at ecological forecasting, predicting how species distributions might shift with climate change. That's vital for planning conservation before it's too late.
Using AI to look ahead.
Exactly. And finally, we'll see, I think, even more sophisticated roles for citizen scientists and educators. AI will help filter and validate the massive amounts of data they contribute, prioritizing things for expert review, making every observation count even more.
So it sounds like building this future requires open platforms, transparency in how AI is trained, and education that blends the old skills with the new tools.
Precisely. A truly global, integrated effort.
AI as an amplifier, then.
Yes. A powerful lens. It lets taxonomists do more, faster, and lets the public connect more deeply with biodiversity. The goal really has to be machines assist, humans lead. Using these tools to accelerate understanding.
What an incredible journey we've covered, from those painstaking handwritten notes and drawings, all the way to AI and eDNA. It really makes you think about how our relationship with knowledge itself changes as our tools change.
It really does. Each era brought new ways of seeing, new ways of understanding the sheer complexity of life around us. AI isn't replacing our curiosity.
And it's amplifying it.
Exactly, amplifying it, offering this powerful new lens. But ultimately, it's that partnership human experience, deep scientific knowledge, combined with machine efficiency that defines where we are now and shapes how we'll understand our world going forward.
And maybe a final thought for you, listening. Behind every AI model, every data set, every identification that pops up on your screen, there's a species, an ecosystem, a living world that's worth protecting. Technology can absolutely guide us, show us patterns we'd never see otherwise, speed things up. But it's still our responsibility, isn't it? To ask the right questions, make the tough decisions about conservation and policy, and make sure that all this incredible power leads to better stewardship, not just more data.
Well said. Because in this new age, the fundamental mission of taxonomy hasn't really changed. It's still about exploring, understanding, and ultimately conserving the amazing richness of life on Earth.